A That's Not Canon Productions podcast.
Hi there, and welcome to another midweek guest episode of Oof, Right in the Childhood. Today, I'm joined by Cherry. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, as Jen said, my name is Cherry. They, them pronouns, please. I enjoy reading and writing all sorts of things, mostly fantasy, but I enjoy branching out occasionally. I also enjoy acting and singing. Fun fact, I have a pretty good vocal range when it comes to singing. Part of the reason I chose this movie is because I can sing Bella Notte reasonably well. The part where Tony sings it. It's about the bottom of my range when I sing it. I can also sing some soprano notes, but I've never gotten tested and had the stuff written down for me. So I don't know my actual range, but
Wow. I mean, Bella Notte is absolutely one of my favorite, love songs of all time. It's such a beautiful song.
mm-hmm.
I just absolutely, this time watching through it, I was like, wow, they really pulled out all the stops for how pretty that scene is.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you mind if I sing some of it?
Go for it.
This is the night, what a beautiful night, and they call it Bella Notte. Look at the skies, they have stars in their eyes, on this lovely Bella Notte. Side by side with your loved one, you'll find enchantment here. The night will weave its magic spell when the one you love is near. Oh, this is the night when the heavens are right. On this lovely Bella Notte.
Yay!
Yeah.
Well, that's
As I immediately slouch back down.
you're like, oh, I forgot I needed to breathe kind of moment.
Well, it's I sit up straight to sing, and then when I'm done, I'm just like, I'm done. Okay, slouch.
Yeah, totally get it. I was raised by a musician. I understand the stand up in a seated position thing. Yep, totally get it. But yeah, that's officially 1,000 times better than I could have sung that. So, yay for you.
Thanks.
So you said that was one of the reasons that you picked this film, and I'm going to assume that you've known it since you were a kid. Is that right?
Yeah, I honestly can't remember how young I was when I first watched it because I was just that little. I mean, I was born in 91, so this movie had been out for quite some time by the time I was born. So who knows?
Yeah, I feel that too. I mean, I was born in 83, but it was still out long enough for me to just remember seeing it forever. So I feel that. And
it's an old one.
Yeah, and it is when I'm watching, I'm like, you know what? But it's a really good old movie.
Yeah, I mean, so long as you look at it and be like, okay, that's not the greatest, but overall, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I will. We'll get into that in just a second about oh no, why?
Yeah, maybe a little
But as
later.
a kid, what did you think of it as a kid?
Oh, I know I really I loved it. Because I loved animal movies growing up, and especially when there were talking animals, because talking animals. I mean, and then even when I was in high school, like I bought a shirt with from Hot Topic with Lady and the Tramp on it. It was like this light blue and it had the spaghetti scene on the front, and there are like stars in the background, like all over it. In the back, there was this like heart made of stars that you could never see because my hair was so long back then. And then like I can't remember if it was like above the picture, below the picture, probably below the picture. But below the picture of the spaghetti scene, it said the greatest love story ever told. And I was just like, this is so good.
I mean, it is a pretty good love story. Like, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching it from when I was very young, and I think I watched it whenever Disney Channel was on free preview, and then we owned it, kind of situation.
I think we had it on VHS.
Yeah, we had it on VHS eventually. I don't remember
Yeah.
when it came out
I
on
know we
VHS.
had this sequel.
That's funny. I've never seen the sequel, and it's one
Oh
of
my
those things
God.
that I keep having to run up against on this is like I've never seen I've almost never seen any of the sequels because
Oh,
by the time
geez.
the direct-to-video sequels came out, I was a little bit aged out of the
That's valid.
that phase where you're like, I've aged out of Disney and I haven't aged back in. There's like that 6-year gap where you're like, I'm too old for Disney, and then like
I
6 years
don't
later,
think
you're
I
like,
ever
oh,
had that
Disney.
actually. But like I know that as a stereotype. You know?
Yeah, and it is like I keep saying I kept thinking I was too old for Disney, and I'm like, I'm literally doing a podcast about Disney now, so maybe I wasn't. I don't know. Because yeah, it seems like it came out on VHS in 1998, maybe? That
Oh,
sounds
jeez.
legit.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been 7 then. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All I remember from the sequel is like, Scamp ran off. There was this little girl dog, 'cause of course there was. I remember the scene where he was like struggling to get up on a trash can. But other than that, nothing.
Well, I mean, I figure at some point I'm gonna have to watch all these sequels. Like I was
Yeah.
talking about with Tim when we did Cinderella, and I'm like, I know that there are sequels that are actually almost important to this story, and I feel like I should watch them at some point, but I haven't. I think I've watched the Little Mermaid sequel, and that's it.
Yeah, watched the Little Mermaid sequel at least twice. I went back not that long ago and watched the Cinderella sequels because I was like, I've heard good things about these. And I was like, these are actually not bad.
Well, I mean, when you make a sequel 50 years after you made the original, at least they updated some things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yay! Updating.
Woo! Yay! Slightly less racism.
Yay! Less overt racism. That's how I
That you
feel
don't
about
notice as a child.
Oh, yeah. So was this like your favorite movie that you wanted to watch all the time, or was it just like
when I geez, I don't really remember. I know it was one of the ones that was at my dad's house, not my mom's. So, and my dad would always like before I went to school and like after I went to like came home from school, we would like watch a movie when I was real little. So it was probably in the rotation of that, but I don't remember quite how often I watched it. I did really enjoy it. So it was one of the ones that I would probably choose more often, but I mean, memory is a fickle thing, you know?
Oh yeah, always. That's yeah. I was never one of those kids that was like, "Oh, it's finished. Let's watch that again." I think it was probably because I grew up without having all these movies on VHS that like by the time we had them I was like, "Okay, I watched it. I will now watch a different movie." kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, like I like I wouldn't watch things like on repeat, but like if I liked something, I would put it like into the rotation more just because focusing on the same thing over and over again, it just leads me to dissociation and it's like let's just enjoy it instead of staring off into nothing, you know?
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I've never really like I've always heard about parents that are like, I've watched Frozen 5 times today, and I'm like, huh, I feel lucky that I have avoided that as a parent.
Yeah, I'm just like, people actually do that? I don't. Okay,
Yeah, apparently.
but I mean, that just wasn't me as a kid. It's like, okay, sure. I mean,
Cool.
with songs, sure, I'll listen to them over and over again, but that's because they're generally like 5 minutes max. So it's a
Mhm.
lot less to focus on. And for that, it's me memorizing it because I really like it and I want to learn the song fast.
Yeah, I think I would do. I actually think that I watched the sing along videos a lot more than I watched the actual movies sometimes. Like, I would go on a sing along binge. I had like 4 of them,
Oh.
and we just watch them over like one after the other. And my dad was like, "Could we? Anything else?"
Oh God, that reminds me. Oh no. Oh no. Do you remember when McDonald's used to sell stuff like VHS tapes and stuff?
Yep.
Um, there was the one time that they were selling all of those Britney Spears and NSYNC stuff. And we got like the music video VHS. I watched that so much.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Some of the things Britney Spears was doing on the screen were not the most child friendly, but
I mean, child friendly meant something different in the 80s and 90s. It just did.
yeah. Yeah.
So, do you have maybe a favorite scene from Lady and the Tramp that you just like really were in love with, or you like really remember?
Like, I think, I mean, nothing was like super like, oh my God, that's amazing. No, it was, like, I mean, everyone likes the spaghetti scene because that's a classic. Um, and like, one of the other scenes that I distinctly remembered was the part in The Pound where the one girl dog was singing
Mhm.
with the bum 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 woof, bum 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 woof. That just stuck in my head so much. I loved that. And like, uh, one time I was thinking of doing karaoke at school, and I was like, "Ooh, I want to sing that song," but then the karaoke machine would not like display the lyrics to that song. And I was like, "Oh,
Boo.
boo!
I
Let
think
me sing about someone being a tramp."
I think the karaoke bar here in that I've been to has like an entire section of just Disney songs, and I was like, that's
Nice.
appropriate. I
See,
loved.
I was in like 7th or 8th grade at the time, so
Yeah, I mean, they were actually
yeah.
kind of afraid that the censors were gonna hit them for the name because at the time, Tramp was, like, lascivious or something,
Mm,
which is I think is
right.
hilarious, and, I watched this little featurette about the making of Lady and the Tramp, which is actually a longer thing than the actual movie, which is
Oh
hilarious,
gosh.
but, like, they talked about one of the animators, was Mormon, and his church was really upset because he drew, Peg, and she was such a sexy dog.
Oh my
And they
God.
were really upset with him that he had something to do with that. Um, and I just think that that's hilarious.
That's
Like,
so
just
good.
just for a moment, imagine a church trying to shun you because you drew a dog too sexy.
Oh my God. That's wow. Wow. Like I remember like I'm pretty asexual, but like I still love songs like that, but
Mhm.
like they mean nothing for me. They're just fun to sing. I think it's like the tone that they're normally sung in just makes me happy to sing.
Yeah,
But like
that low sultry tone. It's a
mhm,
fun feeling, I
yeah.
think. It probably gives a dopamine
He's a
release of some sort in the
tramp,
brain.
but I love him. It's very nice.
It is fun.
Mhm.
And I will hate to admit this. My favorite scene from the movie is the worst favorite scene in the whole wide world
Oh,
because I loved the Siamese cats
I
so
did
much.
too. I did too. I think it was the like purrs and stuff that they put into their song just made me happy.
I
My
think it
little
was
furry
actually
heart.
like that like tight harmony that's actually
Mm,
one person singing on 2 different tracks, but I think that was it. And I really
mm.
thought it was such a funny song. Like I just thought it was so
Yeah,
funny. And then
but
like one
it's
day we were out somewhere and I was singing it and I was probably like, young.
mm,
And my mom
yeah.
like flips around in the grocery store is like, "Oh no, you can't sing that outside." And I was like, "Why?" And she was like, Okay, so we need to talk about racism a little bit.
Oh,
And it broke my heart because I think this is like the first time that anyone ever really told me about racism. I'm not saying it was not the first time that I experienced any form of racism, but it's the first time that me as a little white girl in the South really had someone say, okay, so there are things that we cannot say or do and because they hurt people of color. And of course my mother did not say it that way. She said it in the 1990s way. But I remember that, and it's like my first real moment of, oh, okay. I just didn't know. And so I never sang that song like outside the house again. But I think that this one was the one that I was most prepared to go into. Like, oh yeah, there's some racism going on in this one.
Yeah. Yeah, there really is.
Like I felt at least prepared for it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, I'm prepared for this song. And then I was like, oh no, there's more.
Oh, I kind of I mean, like I hadn't even thought about like the Italian speech pattern. Well, that's a little bit but
and the Tramp's comment about, oh, he knows speak English very good. It's like,
oh no.
I'm pretty sure you don't speak Italian any better than he speaks English, but sure.
I did kind of love that like every person that interacted with Tramp had a different name for him. Like for Luigi, his name is Butch, and for this other family, his name is this. And I thought that was a really fun touch by the scriptwriters that like he doesn't have a name, but everyone has a name for him.
Yeah, and like Tony and them call him Pooch.
Yeah, Pooch, and I can't remember all the names because but when he's walking down the street and he talks about he goes to this house on a Tuesday and
Yup. He has like a different accent for each place. It's like
I was like, oh.
Flex
And
your
the
top,
dogs,
sissy.
the dogs read English, which is always fun.
Yeah. Gotta have some smart doggos.
So, like, did you have moments in this one that you were like, oh, well, hey, that was a thing that I forgot happened?
Like, I forgot, like, most of the movie just, like, in general. Like, I totally forgot that there's, like, a whole, like, scene, like, a whole couple scenes where Lady's still a puppy. Like, I totally forgot about that. So, like, unless it was, like, the spaghetti scene, the pound song, the chicken chase, or, like, the Siamese cat song, I didn't remember it. I didn't even remember that there was a baby involved in the movie.
Gosh.
That's like the whole thing that drives the plot forward. Is the aunt comes along to give the parents a break because there's a baby. But like while I was watching that, like a bunch of details came back, but it was just like before going into it, I was like, I don't remember anything.
Surprise! It's always like watching it for the first time ever again. Like you're like, oh, it's been 20 years and now I don't remember anything. Excellent. It's like watching it anew.
Yeah. A little bit, but you still remember it's like, oh yeah, this is gonna happen. And like at the end, I was like, oh no, that's right. This dog gets a card on top of him. Oh no, I forgot. Does he live? I can't remember. And then a few seconds, I was like, oh right, he does live. Good. Yes, the dog lives. For a few seconds, I was legit like concerned because I couldn't remember if the dog lives.
Oh yeah. Actually, he was supposed to die.
No!
Yeah, he was. And then so Peggy Lee, who wrote so many of the songs for this movie, she actually was like, if you kill that dog, I walk. And they were like, so he lives?
He just has a limp now.
Yeah, this is fine. He can just he lives. That's great. Yeah. Sorry, Peg. My husband walked in while I was watching it the most recent time because I've watched it twice in succession now. And he walked in during the pound scene and he was like, what is this? And I was like, it's Lady and the Tramp. And he's like, where are they? I was like, she's in the pound. And he's like, I don't remember this. And I was like, oh, so it's going to get a lot sadder here in just a second. And he's like, pardon? Yeah. And then they like walk the dog into the like euthanasia room. And he's like, did they just kill a dog? And I was like, they did. Yeah. He's like, what is this movie? And I'm like, we all watched it.
Yup. And the thing is, like, I remembered the song that Peg sang, but I didn't remember anything else about the pound scene. I didn't even remember the first pound song. I didn't even remember that there was a song that they were singing when you first go into the pound.
Yes.
I just remembered the, like, sultry one. I'm like, I forgot a lot.
Yeah, I will say that when I watched it the first time after 20 years, I was like, child's first kill shelter. Excellent. This is such a great time.
Well, you can tell that when they drew the pound, they were trying to go for, pounds are not the greatest places for dogs. Get them out of there as soon as you can because they do not last. I mean, you saw all those sad dog faces that they drew.
You know,
they were crying.
I would love to look up, like, I would love to see if there was like a run on pounds after Lady and the Tramp, because they did. They were like, all these dogs are pretty great dogs, but they just were going to kill them because no one will take them home. I would love to know if people like went and got dogs. I didn't find anything about that, but that would be a really cool result. I will say, like, I've been kind of working my way through the new live action version that's on Disney Plus, and I've really loved some of the updates that they've made. I haven't gotten to where she has cats yet, but I'm sure that they took that right the heck out or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard that they changed that, but I don't know how. I don't actually have Disney Plus, so yeah.
The big one, like, I've only gotten 20 or 30 minutes into the movie because I've just been watching it in snippets. The biggest change is that they've made Jim and Darling an interracial couple. And they've just like kept it in the early 1900s and been like, hey, you know what? This should have been how it was. And that was fine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm okay with that. And they're actual dogs, and then they just do that little CG thing where they move their mouths. So instead of like doing animated dogs. And so it's a really kind of interesting change that they've given for it.
Right. Which, I mean, like, you know, putting CG over like the real thing is going to stand up slightly better than, you know, just CGing the whole thing, depending on how well you do it. Like,
well, it's a lot less money for sure. I mean, like, the new Lion King looks spectacular, but they, you know, just backed up a truck of money to a studio somewhere. So,
oh geez,
it's just so much. I will say that, like, the subtitle of this particular episode is a story about people who shouldn't own dogs. Because like they get this puppy and they're like, so we're just gonna, you know, lock her in the kitchen. That'll be fine.
Yeah. Also, she was a Christmas present.
Right? Don't give people pets for Christmas.
Right? Oh my god. There was this one year I was working like Easter bunny stuff in the mall, right? And like they were selling rabbits there. It's like, oh, they're so easy to take care of. It's like, no, they're not.
They are.
But I felt like I couldn't say anything because I felt like if I shut down this part of it, that I would lose my job, and I needed my job.
Right.
Don't buy animals for Christmas. Don't buy bunnies for Easter. Just make sound decisions when you're like dealing with another creature's life.
I want to take a moment to thank my supporters on Patreon. Supporters on Patreon help me cover hosting fees and upgrade my equipment while being able to choose to promote small businesses. There are a few changes this month. As of now, all supporters starting at the Whistle While I Work level, or $1 a month, get an ad-free version of every episode 1 day early. Fairy godmothers like Jason and Mixie at the $5 level still get a bonus episode on the first of every month. This month, I explore Mary Poppins in depth. From Walt badgering a woman for the rights she didn't want to give to possible rape culture moments, Mary Poppins is practically perfect in every way. So come over and hear everything you didn't want to know about Mary Poppins. If you'd like to become a patron, you can search the show over at Patreon, or you can follow the link in the show notes or on my website.
Hey, this is Mark Jolliffe, aka DJ Soundwave, host of the Infinite Banter podcast. Want to welcome everybody listening to come check out my show, Infinite Banter. The topics are infinite, and I'll banter about anything from hip-hop music to TV to movies, wrestling, comic books, you name it. I've talked about it on this show. I've had guests like Ski from the Fat Boys and underground hip-hop acts like Dirt Platoon on the show. I've also had actor Joshua Michael from The Walking Dead, Tommy McLaughlin, director of Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, as well as independent wrestlers like Shaza McKenzie and Roxy, and legendary wrestlers like B. Brian Blair have all been on the show. So come check out Infinite Banter, where I'll talk about anything from TV to comic books to wrestling to hip-hop music. Listen to the show on all digital platforms, specifically Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts. Everywhere you hear podcasts, you'll hear the show Infinite Banter. So come check me out, the Infinite Banter Podcast.
Do not give animals as presents. Hard stop.
Exactly.
It's that simple. Like, unless you and that other person have been planning the purchase of a pet for some time, you know exactly what that pet needs and what pet that other person wants. Just don't. Like, it's easier to be like, I'd like to get you a pet for your birthday. Would you like to come with me and pick a pet out with me so you get exactly what you want?
How about I'll tell you when the wait list starts up, and then you can get me a snake.
Like, just like, don't give people presents that are pets. Like, just don't give alive presents. Unless, I guess you could give plants. Plants are okay.
True.
Don't give sentient presents. Let's do that. No sentient presents.
Actually, plants might be sentient, I think I heard once, but they're sentient on
yeah.
a different level. I don't know.
That's a good point, but they're sentient on
Yeah.
a different level.
Anyway.
So, yeah. Not to get off on a tangent, and also spay and neuter your pets, even though that wasn't available in 1909.
Please do. Oh my gosh.
So one of the things I didn't realize until I had, like I said, I watched this very long featurette. I did not realize that the night that Lady and the Tramp spent together was the night that the puppies were conceived.
Oh, okay. I didn't either.
Are you okay? Did I
Yeah.
break you?
I'm just like, oh, okay, sure.
When they bring that up in that one, I was like, what? Well, that does make sense.
It does.
Now that you mention it.
Yeah. But also, like, that could have happened at home, too.
It could have, but like that's what their intention was. And if you notice, like the next morning, the male dogs are walking up and talking about matrimony. And
Yup.
it's like this double meaning of like either these dogs are trying to get her to move in with them because she's being so mistreated by her humans, or they know she's pregnant and they've decided to claim the puppies as their own somehow, which is not how that works.
Yeah, like I hadn't. Oh, geez. That yeah. I hadn't even considered that. Like I picked up on the matrimony thing this time, but I was just like, oh, you know, the mistreated angle. But I hadn't even considered. Oh, she's already pregnant.
Yeah, I think The Simpsons does a really funny parody of it, and in that parody, they make it much more obvious that the next morning, Lady is pregnant.
Oh, jeez. I never watched The Simpsons, so I wouldn't know.
Oh, it's hilarious. But yeah, I watched it, I was like, I'm sorry, Disney, you did what? You're just like, oh yeah, those dogs, they
Yeah.
woof woof.
Wow.
But I will say, like, did you, other than, I guess we've already touched on like the racism and the accent, but were there any
Yeah.
other of those moments that you were like, oh no, why?
Lady was 6 months old when she met the tramp.
Oh yeah.
And it's implied that he was kicked out of his home by then. So he's probably significantly older than her. And yes, they're dogs, but age gaps like that become more and more uncomfortable the older I get.
Get
Like-
that. Like, we don't know. He could have been a year old, for all we know, because you
Yeah.
know how dogs
Like,
are.
it's- Yeah, but it's just kind of like, because it's like, it's the old guy with the young, naive
Oh.
girl.
Oh, that's a ugh. And he has been with
Yeah.
many different women, as
Yeah.
Peg puts it. Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh. But I did
Yeah.
I was a little heartbroken by his stop that racket, you'll wake the baby, and all that's from him. And I was like, oh, I feel so sad for him and his story because this
Yeah.
has happened to him. He's not
Yup.
just I heard a rumor of it. That was way too close to this happened to me.
Yep. Yeah. So that had already happened to him by the time that lady was 6 months old, which consider the fact that they probably got him and had him for a little while before they knew about the pregnancy. So that's probably about 9 months.
Mhm.
So he's definitely just a little older than her. So it's just kind of it's kind of iffy.
A little
So
bit now that you make that point.
Yeah.
I mean, but I will say that at least by the time they get together, quote unquote, it's been another at least I'm going to say 8 months. I'll go with another 9 to 10 months because it's been long enough because for Darling to have found out that she's pregnant, have the baby, and then the baby be old enough to leave alone for their little baby moon 3-day
where they
trip,
need a
it
break.
seems. Yeah. And so I'm gonna give her that she was let's assume she's 14 months old or something like that.
So
Or no, I
the
guess it'd be even
baby.
more more close to 18 months old almost.
Yeah. So the baby was born in April.
Mhm.
She was a Christmas puppy. And
Oh, I can
baby
do this
was
math. Actually, the baby was born in April, and
Mhm.
then puppies gestate for 63 days. I have this math in my episode. So if we work backwards from Christmas, when they already have the babies the puppies that are pretty much old enough to leave mom again, so they're 8 weeks old. So that's 2 months plus 63 days, so another 2 months. So that's the 8th month of the year is August.
I think.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So if he got her at Christmas, then she would have been probably about 2 months old then, say 6 to 8 weeks. And
Well,
then
because and then
and so she would have been
she
what?
was 6 months. She was 6 months when Darlene got pregnant, and then the baby was born the next April.
Well, we don't okay, so no, she got her collar when she was 6 months old, but then she found out that the baby was on its way later. So they said she's 6
So
months
she's
old
at
and she got her
least
top,
6
and then
months.
and so again, if we're going to work backwards from April, May, June, July. So Darling would have found out that she was pregnant in July or August, depending on how soon they found out. So again, she would have been actually closer to almost a year old, actually. She would have been closer to 10 months old when they found out about the baby. And then another year would have gone by before she got together with Tramp.
Yeah.
So she's almost 2.
Yeah. It's a little better, but it's
It's
still
still, I mean, it doesn't change
fact,
how much older he is than her potentially.
Yeah. There's a difference between there being a big age gap between 2 adults who have been adults for a while and someone who an adult who met a child while they were still a child and then waited for them to grow up.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
I will
not
give you
exactly
that.
what Tramp did, but that's
I mean, I'm willing to give you that there's probably at least probably a year's age difference in them, and for dogs that's a little bit different than for a year's age difference in humans, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, because they're so humanized, you start to have to think about it almost.
Oh no, I don't wanna. But I was already traumatized by this movie. Why must there be more trauma?
Yeah. Yeah. And then one of the other things that I noticed that they don't show Darlene when she's pregnant at all, but they show the dog fight full on.
Yeah. Well, first of all, they didn't have any blood during the dog fight, which I noticed.
True.
Tramp straight up gnaws on that guy's leg, and he's like, this is fine.
Dude went for the neck.
Right? But this also might have been that time that they might not have been allowed to show pregnancy. If you think about I Love Lucy and the fact that they couldn't say the word pregnant at any point during her pregnancy. So I Love Lucy she was pregnant on the air in 1952 and couldn't say the word pregnant. And this
Mhm.
movie was 1955. So, I mean, the censors were a little touchy about pregnancy,
Yeah,
and I think
that's
that
fair.
that was a way for them to just be like, "Oh, look, she's expecting because she's humming in high-heeled boots and knitting." Did not escape me that there was some high-heeled boots going on in that. I was like, "Why are you wearing those in the house, darling?"
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then, like, all of a sudden there's a baby.
Yeah. Also, was Darling like a common name? Because that's all she's called throughout the entire movie.
So I looked this up actually because it bugged me too. One of the things that I remember really bothering me about this as a kid was all the nicknames. It really annoyed me that their names were Jim Dear and Darling because those aren't real names. It annoyed me that Tramp called her Pidge. Those kinds of things. And so what it was, they actually had names in the first script, but they decided to just like how a kid thinks of their parents' names as mom and dad. They
Mhm.
like they figured the dog thought that her owner's names were the pet names that they'd given each other.
Which is fair, but she was also called Darling by her friends at the baby shower.
That is absolutely true. And I will not argue that, but that was their argument for how they were like why their names were that way. They took out their actual names. They had a last name and everything at some point.
Right. Yeah. Which, in my view, so like obviously the dude's name seems to be Jim because
Mhm.
it's Jim Dear. Why not like have someone like have one of her friends call her something? It could even be like a
Sarah.
silly little throwback. She could be Wendy Darling.
Right. That would have been hilarious. Oh
Right?
my god, why not? I
Right?
mean, well, they probably didn't want to do that
Like,
because, you know, British and all that, but that's a great idea. I
yeah.
love that.
But like they could have been, oh, Wendy Darling, you know?
Yeah.
That would have been very nice.
That would have been
And
great.
you still have been like, oh, they're talking to Darling. That's how we know.
Right.
But still give her an actual name.
Please. What? I mean, you know, it was the 50s. Women didn't get names. You know better.
Ugh. Ugh. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
1950s. You are so 1950s.
At least Peg got a name.
Yeah, Peg got a name. Lady was her
Kind
name.
of.
I mean,
Yeah, her
they
name is
named
Lady. Like,
she was based on a real dog named Lady, so
okay.
like that was her name, but yeah, she got a name. Whatever.
It's a name that like okay. But I mean, I guess like I can't really like complain. My name is Cherry, but I mean I picked that myself, so it's just like whatever. We're both named after things that aren't names.
You know,
But mine
it
is more
works.
like yeah, mine is more like I'm non-binary. I chose this. Hers is more, oh, she's such a little lady. We'll just call her Lady. But you know, whatever.
Ah, and that the whole scene with the zoo, I thought that like I remember that scene with the zoo like so well from it when I was a kid. It's such a
I had
funny
totally
scene.
forgotten. I had totally forgotten. Like they went to the zoo and I was like, who are they gonna is it gonna be like chimps or something? And then the guy was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about the beaver.
I think it
How
was
did
the
I
first time I
forget
ever
about
saw a beaver like at all, which is not actually seeing a beaver, but a
yeah.
depiction of a beaver.
Right. Right.
He was so funny.
Yeah.
I love that scene so much.
It's very good. And Shrimp has that like salesman thing going on there.
And Lady's like, "It's a free sample." And Tramp looks at her like, "Pardon? Okay."
It's the way to be like, hey, this is why we're not having you pay. Let's go.
Yeah, but he just looks like so surprised that she picked up the con so fast. And I don't really know why they had to feel like they had to con this beaver, but you know, she picked it up so fast and
Eh.
he just looked at her like, "Well, all right then. I think I'm in love.
Yeah.
Help me trick a beaver, baby."
Oh my god. Oh no.
Sorry. It's my job to ruin people's childhoods.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
So, did you have kind of like a favorite scene that when you watched it this time?
That little bitty she was so smart and so good and so persistent, and she faced those big giant stairs like a champ.
Oh, I love little lady. Like, I think from like as a child, I knew you can't just leave a dog in the kitchen from that scene.
Mm. Yeah. Also, they're like, just for tonight. And then, like, she was there, and then she woke up as an adult. It's like, yes, just for tonight. No, she was there every single night.
How it always works with dogs, right?
Yeah. Plus, like, with that scene, that I noticed, there was, like, I didn't notice any racism or sexual leanings. It was just adorable pupper who is very smart.
This is 100% cute puppy moments before anything bad happens. And the only thing that I had a problem with was she's like, is she going to be warm enough? And I was like, okay, that's reason number one to not leave her in the kitchen. If you're afraid she'll be cold, like it must be real cold in that kitchen if you're afraid.
Yeah.
Someone didn't research getting a puppy. But yeah, like the story, it's funny because like there was an animator that had a dog named Lady, and he had drawn out all these shorts about how his lady had gotten shafted when his daughters were born. You know, as they did, I guess. And then he left the studio before they actually made Lady and the Tramp. So Walt Disney claimed that he had given his wife a chow puppy in a hat box as an apology for being late one day. And that's where they came up with the story. So, you know, that pissed off the animator's family. They were like, pardon? This is our dog.
Excuse?
And I was also like, do not give people puppies in a hat box.
Please. Like, the way that they animated the hat box looked like she was about to fall through.
It was, I've seen a couple of the videos of they put a puppy in a hat box to get it to push up so the animators could get the animation right. It is so cute.
Oh,
it is just like, you're like, oh, buddy,
baby.
You're the best.
Baby. Oh.
I love the puppy scenes of like, I could watch the puppy scenes so much, and her harassing Jim, like, you deserve this.
Yeah, the way she was whining, and then she was like wagging her tail because she knew she is one smart dog.
She's so smart.
She's so smart.
My husband was like, well, yeah, spaniels are ridiculously smart and they're very well behaved. And I was like, yeah, you can tell because Lady's the best.
Yes.
Do you know what's going on with the rat? Because I do not understand what the big freaking deal was with the rat.
Huh. I don't know.
Like, rats are gross. And that was a big rat.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It was a pretty big rat. But like, I think even as a kid, I was like, but it's a rat?
Rats can carry a lot of diseases, unfortunately. Like they have, especially. Plus, like, I don't know. I think maybe they're trying to portray it as, ooh, baby, easy meal.
I did see that moment where it's standing on the crib looking at the baby, and it's like, I'm going to eat a baby. I was like, rats don't eat babies, though.
Yeah.
Last I checked, rats don't eat babies.
Yeah, well, they were just going for that angle. It's one of those, this animal is greatly misunderstood, you know?
Well, and Aunt Sarah, oh my gosh. Aunt Sarah might have been the reason that I didn't like cats for a long time in my life. I now own 2. And like her was like, how dare you be near the baby, and like obviously protecting it while this other dog is in this other corner far away from it, and I will just trap it and call, and they're just going to kill him immediately upon getting to the pound. I was like, wait, okay, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
Why would you first of all leave your dog and baby with someone who hates dogs,
right?
Without being like, so hey, we explicitly trust this dog with our baby, don't be a jerk,
right?
Thanks, Aunt Sarah.
Yeah. I mean,
because it is the moment they walk in, they look at Lady, and they're like, oh no, she's trying to tell us something. There's something important. Oh look, a giant rat.
Yep.
And then, oh, we've already called someone to kill the other dog. Great job, Sarah.
Yeah. Like, I'm personally not a dog person. I prefer cats. Always have. But like, I have absolutely nothing against dogs at all. And like, I can still be like, oh hey, Okay, I'll follow you. Sure. What you got? You know?
I always say that I like other people's dogs.
Yes.
I just don't particularly want to be a dog owner.
Yes, there's so much work.
There's a lot of work involved, and like you have to train them and stuff like that. Like you just get a cat and it's just like, so this is mine? Cool.
Yeah. So like dogs, you have to train them, you have to walk them. Doesn't matter if there's a blizzard outside, you got to open the door to put them out so they can go to the bathroom. Cats just chill inside all day.
They're like, so this is my domain and I allow you to live in it. And you're like, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
That's great.
The fact that the dogs were all pretty free roaming was just kind of like a little weird to me watching the movie.
It was weird. I think that was very turn of the century, from what I understood. Because like I think that's what they're going for. It's supposed to be set in like 1909. And I think that these dogs are just like they travel from yard to yard and everyone knows who they are and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I found that interesting too.
Yeah.
It's just like there's dogs everywhere.
Yeah. And it's just like, that is like looking back on it with what we know now, it's like that is not a safe way to keep your pet. They could get run over.
It's not.
But I mean, there were less
They
cars
get run
back then.
over.
So
There were like it's very like early cars and they could stop a lot sooner. I mean, there's still horse-drawn carriages in this town.
Yep.
So
Yep. Though I mean, obviously, those can be dangerous for dogs too. One of them almost died because of
Obviously.
a horse-drawn carriage.
I just wondered, I wonder if those horses were okay.
Oh gosh, I hope they were too, because horses.
Why did you do that, Brain?
Horses can break their legs so easy, and they don't heal as great as other animals. They're weak. They're strong, but they're weak. Fragile. That's the word. They're strong, but they're fragile.
They're fragile. Strong
They
but
break
fragile.
easy.
That's a
And it's like, babies, no. Please be careful. Please be okay.
no more falling over in the streets, thank you.
Yes. Be careful.
And like, I love that no part of me is like, gee, I hope the dog catcher is okay. Because I'm like, humans.
Screw them.
Human. He can break his arm. Who cares? He was mean.
Yeah.
It's really funny. And in the new one, the dog catcher has like a vendetta against Tramp, and he's like describing him as like a rabid wolf. Kind of like he's a huge monster with great sharp teeth, and people are like, "Are you talking about a dog or like a dragon?" It's like one step
dragon?
short of, and he breathes fire and spits acid kind of moments.
Do they legit say dragon?
No, they did not. But like everyone keeps going, "Are you talking about a dog?" And he was like, "Yeah, a dog." And they're like, "It's a dog."
Oh my god.
It's so funny. Like the way people just keep going, "It's a dog."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a hoot. So yeah, if you ever get around to Disney Plus, I do recommend the live action. As far as I've seen, it seems to be really hilarious. I haven't gotten to the potentially racist parts, but I'll let you know.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, you've got my
racist
Discord
parts.
handle, so.
Well, Cherry, thank you so much for joining me today. I really had a great time.
Thanks. I had a great time too.
Well, and do you have any social media, Twitter, that you'd like people to reach out to you if they'd like some voice work or anything like that?
It's PIAB Cherry Bomb.
PIAB Cherry Bomb.
Mhm.
So they do amazing voice work, as you've heard through here. So if you're looking for some voice work, I encourage you to reach out to PIAB Cherry Bomb on Twitter.
Guest episodes, when available, will drop into your feed on Thursdays after the main episode about that movie is scheduled. Make sure you don't miss a single guest episode by hitting the subscribe button on wherever you're getting your podcasts right now. You can also get updates by following me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under the username OofMyChildhood. A transcript of this episode will be available on my website, and if you check my YouTube channel, you'll find captioned videos. I do my best to provide a transcript and video as soon as this episode is published, but if this one isn't available yet, check my website for updates and a link to the appropriate video. My theme music was composed and played by Sean Rudolph of Let Music Be. For more information on that studio, you can visit their website at letmusic.be or visit my website for an easy link. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you come back each week to discuss Disney through modern eyes. And while you're at it, if you're enjoying yourself, please let your friends know about me. I'd also appreciate a rating and review wherever you're listening to the show. This podcast was recorded with the help of the Craig chatbot and edited by me. I release a new regular episode every Monday through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many, many other podcatchers. So until next time, keep the magic alive.